when you are talking to someone, it's very important that they know that you are listening to them. And in order to ensure that, you want to show them that you're paying attention to them, which might seem strange. You would think it should be obvious I'm paying attention because I'm paying attention. But the thing is, people aren't in your head, and they don't know, unless you're giving clues through your behavior, that you are paying attention. A lot of communication, or let me a lot of communication, I was going to say it's everything, but that's maybe not true. Communication is a mix of your intentions mixed with your expressions, how, your performance, you can call it, and then mixed with their own interpretation, which is based on a lot of different things, right? So you have kind of 3 layers there, but 2/3 of it is under your control. Your intentions and your expressions. You can't really control their interpretations of you, but you can push things in your favor, right? Because the world is not this deterministic thing where, okay, well, if we're meant to get along, we're gonna get along. If we're meant to be enemies, we're gonna be enemies. There's a lot of free will involved, okay? And if you take responsibility for the way that you come off, you're going to have a lot more success. This is going to help you with everything, with dating, with friends, with job interviews, good first impressions in general. Because people want to feel as if you are paying attention, but the thing is, because it means you care. And when you care, they feel like, oh, you're actually my friend, right? So they'll open up to you, they'll connect with you, they'll treat you better too. I mean, there is some self-interest involved as well, right? But it's also just nice, right? It's nice to make people feel heard. It's nice to make people feel understood. It's nice to be one of the few people who actually, if you pay attention when people talk, most people are just, waiting their turn to talk. But even when they are paying attention, they're not fully paying attention. You ever been in a situation where someone's saying something, the other person just goes, "Uh-huh, yeah." And for fucking sure they didn't understand what that person just said, right? And there's many reasons why. They'll do it because, they didn't hear them, so they're just going to, instead of being awkward and saying, "What was that?" 10 times. Or they didn't get the joke, right? People just kind of laugh because they're like, "Oh, they made a joke, I'm just going to laugh," right? To avoid being awkward. Or they just don't give a shit and they're just being polite. Whatever, right? If you can be the person who actually genuinely, sincerely gives a shit, people can feel the difference. People can feel the difference between quality products and quality services and slop shit that was just put together to make a buck, right? Most of the interactions that people put out are slop shit, right? And even the interactions between close friends who genuinely do care about each other, this is why it's important that you have to show. You may not be good at expressing yourself. And if you're not good at expressing yourself, the other person might understand, right? They'll be like, "I know you, so I get that you were, meaning this." Like, let's say you say something that could be interpreted as rude, but then they're like, "I understand you. You didn't mean it that way," right? But wouldn't it be better if we can just avoid that miscommunication as much as possible? You can't do it in every case, right? You can't, just like in my videos tend to be a little bit, I tend to be a bit rough with the way I talk. I understand that I'm going to alienate a certain group of people. That responsibility is on me, but also to some extent the responsibility is on people to be, intelligent enough to listen to what I'm saying, the content of what I'm saying. But there is some responsibility on me, right? So that's what I'm trying to teach you. I'm trying to teach you that there is a responsibility on you as well. It's not entirely your blame if, you don't connect with someone, but you want to take as much control over it as possible. And so when you actively show, so that it's only a complete idiot could not see it, show that you're paying attention, it'll mean that you care, and it'll make the other person want to connect with you more because they think that you genuinely care, which you should, right? I'm not saying you should fake it. If you don't actually care, okay. But this is another thing I would teach you. I might teach you to train yourself to care more about what people say, because it's going to drastically change your entire life. your entire approach to people. You'll see people, instead of, I have to get through this social encounter for the sake of it, I'm actually going to use it as an opportunity to learn more about myself. I'm going to use it. This is a great video idea, actually. I've actually taught, one second, I need to write these things down. Sometimes I'll just start speaking and shit will come out of my mouth, and I'm like, that's really good. I should make a video of that. So, like, teaching people to care about people, talking to people, social skills, etc. Right? And then we had those 3 things where you have your intentions, like what I wanted. This is a big thing in texting, like what you want to say, and then your actual expression, and then interpretation, right? So, good thing I got those down before I forget. Sorry for the awkward moment in the video. Anyways, back to the business. When you actually care about people, they're going to feel the genuine difference. You're going to perform better, because it's hard to, let's say you were to listen to my video and go, okay, I have to do it because, insert advantage here. That'll help you a little bit, because you'll be doing the technicals, right? You'll listen to what I'm going to teach you in this video, and you'll be technically more charismatic, right? This is going to make you charismatic. If it hasn't been already obvious, I just haven't used the word charisma, but that's largely what I'm teaching here. But you don't actually care. It's not gonna feel, it's like a product. Like I said, it's gonna be good marketing, and it might be bedazzled on the front, but it's not an actual quality pot, or a quality, whatever. But when you put your hands on a real, like, marble, like real marble versus fake marble that just has, the small layer of marble on the outside, but then it's whatever behind it, slate or some shit, right? But genuine fucking marble is heavy as God fucking shit, right? It is really, really God fucking shit. How heavy is that? It's really heavy, okay? We're just going to assume that the shit that God shits is heavy, all right? So, yeah, it's going to make you connect with people better. It's going to, you're going to enjoy it more, because convincing you to enjoy socializing will make it more, it'll make it more fun, right? But you need something to enjoy. And for me, I've always enjoyed the game behind it, but I've also enjoyed learning about people, because when you learn about people, you learn about yourself. And when you learn about yourself, you learn about people. So that's also a very important thing, right? So there is a self-interest, I guess, deep down, right? It'll benefit everyone involved. So how do you actually demonstrate to people that you are interested in what they're saying, that you're really actively listening, right? So there's a few things. One, you don't have to stare at them in the fucking eyes the entire time, like, I'm paying attention. That's just fucking creepy and weird, okay? You should probably give more eye contact than you're currently giving, right? A lot of people are not really good with eye contact. There's not a specific range, I guess you could say. Generally, when you're listening, you want to be giving eye contact, like, somewhere close to, like, 60 to 80% of the time, right? Like a majority of the time. That's a fair, word for it. When you're talking, you want to be giving eye contact, like, 60 max, right? Maybe like 70, 75. But like, no, I'd say more towards 60, because when you're talking, unless you're in like a teacher situation where you're like actively like giving them information, right? You don't want to be staring at them the entire time, like, and then you do this, and then, yeah, it goes like this, like, no, that just feels too intense, because you're talking at them and then looking at them. It's like double pressure, right? So 60 is good, because you want to make some eye contact, because it shows confidence. It shows conviction. But if you get up to that 70, 75%, scratch what I said. I just said the same thing. 70, 75 is pretty much 80, right? Scratch that. 60 is your max, because it's just too intense. But when you're listening, you're not talking, right? You're just listening. For the when one person's, I know conversations are back and forths, but like when one person's like really doing a lot of the talking, and you have some of those friends who do most of the talking, or maybe it's you, maybe you're that friend. But if you're only doing half of that, it's not so intense. It's just like, But then here's the second tip, the nodding. Now, Don't overdo it as well. You don't want to be the guy who's like, right? And you can also do the verbal thing. Interesting. Like you can make little comments or just verbal, or like, they're not nonverbal, but like just grunts, I guess, like little vocal signals that are like, I'm following you. Yeah. Okay. And the advanced version of that is, if you're really paying attention, and this is also the advantage of paying attention, is that you're paying attention. So you're going to get the information that they're saying because you're really listening to their story about Tabitha being a fucking cunt at work, right? And some girl you're on a date with is talking about Tabitha at work, and you need to hear the story, and you need to, right? You need to interject with, you can interject with like a guess of a spoiler, like, no, don't tell me she was dating the boss, or, you can come to your own conclusions, and jump in and make connections. You can ask for clarifications, right? So your comments can be questions. Be like, hold on a second. How long was she working there before she started to act like this? Or is she like, you're getting clarification on the story, which shows you're paying attention, right? Or just like verbal grunts, like, yeah, huh, cool, or small little comments. And you also don't want to be looking away too far, right? But you do want to look like you're considering what they're saying, especially if it's more of a back and forth conversation, not just you completely listening, right? So they're saying something and you're listening, and you want to look pensive. So you almost want to actually not fabricate in a like fake sense. Like you don't want to like pretend to like, I'm really thinking about it. You are thinking about what they're saying. So it's sincere, but you have to show people because they don't know. Because sometimes people, when they listen, they're just like, and I remember being told this when I was younger. I would do this a lot. I would look off and people would say, are you listening to me? I'm like, no, like I am. I'm thinking about what you're saying. But because I wasn't showing them, they didn't know, right? And I actually had a client do this in a call recently. He was looking off in the distance, and it looked like he was looking at someone, but I knew that he was just thinking. But I told him, and I said, look, these are small little things that you're doing wrong that are coming off uncharismatic because they're breaking your connection with someone. So if you're going to look off into the distance, don't look off too far, right? Don't cross don't do a 90-degree turn, right? You want to stay between like looking at them to like 45 degrees max, right? You don't have to get out a fucking protractor, but just generally have this idea in mind. Like look just past them, right? But then you can, because you don't want to just be staring someone in the eyes the entire time, right? You look off and you go, yeah. So you can combine all of these little acts, so to speak, right? You look off kind of past them, you put your hand on your chin and you kind of go, very interesting. Yeah. Don't have to be so dramatic with it, but you can respond in real time. And if the person you're talking to is interesting, right? They're telling a funny story, laughing, right? We do a lot of this subconsciously, right? But I want to teach you how to be actively conscious of it, because active awareness of things leads to mastery. And mastery increases your control. You don't have full control over people, right? And your communication towards them. But you have a lot more than you think you do. And when you take control, you don't let the whims of, just random chance take over. You're able to control people's interpretations to a large extent, which means you won't be misunderstood. And we don't like to be misunderstood. You won't miscommunicate. We don't like to miscommunicate, because if we're caring enough to communicate with this person, then we have an implicit motivation behind it. So wouldn't you want that motivation to be met? It sounds pretty self-evident to me, right? But some people kind of have this underlying notion that, things just happen, right? We shouldn't try and take control. We should just surrender to the moment. That's fucking stupid, okay? So, keeping strong eye contact, but also when you do break eye contact, don't go too far. Make sure your face clearly shows that you're paying attention by either reacting to the story or looking like you're thinking. And then, of course, laughing when they say something funny, not in a fake way, but just becoming aware of that's what you're doing. You are just laughing because it's funny inherently, but it's a signal to the other person. And it makes them feel like, oh, okay, they thought my joke was funny. I'm not boring. I'm not, because everyone has insecurities. What you're kind of doing here is you're alleviating insecurities, which is allowing connections to connect, to build without interference. Awkward moments, miscommunications, taking offense, thinking you're not paying attention. These are all things that will block the connection. So we're trying to remove as many of those as possible to allow more connections to form. Okay? All very positive things, right? And then, the higher level is actually you are paying attention to what they're saying, so you're actively responding. Now, of course, all of these things could be taken to the extreme, right? If you're interjecting too much while someone's talking, well, now you're fucking interrupting them and you're annoying. This is one of my bad habits, actually. Like, I will jump in and, I tend to know where most stories are going, and so I kind of guess. And sometimes it's actually really cool. Like, I'll guess what happened, and they'll go, exactly, that's what happened. She did this, or he did this, or really he was doing this, right? Because I just, I've listened to a lot of shit. So, when you've seen 1,000 movies, you can guess plot lines. And a lot of people are pretty predictable, and similar to others. But sometimes I'll be wrong and I'll just totally miss the point and I'll fucking, be annoying and the other person will be like, let me finish. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Right. So all of these things can be done to too much of an extreme. The game is, if you don't do it at all, you're a fucking piece of wood and just sitting there and not interacting. If you interact too much, you're annoying or, overly eager or whatever it is. Right. So, show people. Just think of, I've given you a few hints, right? And I guess the thinking behind it, but show people that you're actively listening, right? Call back later in the conversation something that they had said and connect it to something you're saying. Then they'll be like, oh, wow, look, I was really paying attention, right? And this has large ramifications. It can be like I don't know, your girlfriend or your wife asks you to do something, right? Like, I don't pick up my clothes off the floor, or I, do something. And she's like, hey, baby, could you do this? Could you do this? And then she tells you a billion times and you don't fucking listen. And that frustrates her because it shows her, or she interprets it as he doesn't give a shit. When in reality, that's not really the case. I mean, to some extent, I guess it's the truth, but it's not like I'm actively doing it to piss her off. It's just something I don't know, I just don't think about it too much, right? I'll get to it eventually, but, But if you take the time to actively listen and try and do it throughout the day, that will make her feel loved and appreciated and listened to because you're doing something that she wanted, which is nice, right? So this extends to relationships, marriages, friendships, parent-child relationship, everything. Coworkers, bosses. This is a very, 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 very powerful thing. And if you can call back things people talked about months or years later, they're like, oh, wow, he actually pays attention. He actually cares. It's an incredibly powerful. If more people learned how to genuinely listen to conversations, a lot of problems would be solved because a lot of problems in the world are because of miscommunication. And a lot of miscommunication is a result of misinterpretation, which is on the fault of both the speaker and the listener, right? But all we can do is take control of what we control, which is our intentions and our performance or our expressions. So take control of the way that you respond actively while someone is speaking. And yeah. So anyways, love you guys. Best wishes. See you soon. Ciao.